Okay, good evening once again, everyone. How are you all doing today? You guys are good. Yeah. So it's nice to actually be very good in taking you guys this class. So I'm just going to get started so we don't waste too much time. So just a couple of seconds, please. I'm trying to set up my screen so I can take the class and still see you guys at the same time. Just a second, please. Almost there. So sorry, I literally just woke up. I had to take a short nap. Um, okay, let me know if you can see my screen. Can you guys see my screen? Okay, awesome. How many of us are on this call? Okay, awesome. So, our topic for today is wireframing and prototyping, and I'm going to try to make it as fun as possible because I also don't like the class being boring or anything like that. So, before I get started, are these words familiar or not? Like wireframing and prototyping. Um, if it's familiar to you, I'll just give like I don't know, maybe 5 people the floor to just tell us what they think prototyping and wireframing is real quick before we get started. So the first 5 people that raises up their hand, I will allow them speak. First 5 people that raises up their hand. So I can't see any hands up. So one, 4 more, 2. I'm still counting. In the next 1 minute, if there's no other person, we'll just continue. That's 3. Okay. All right. No more hands, please. Toby, what do you think wireframing and prototyping is? Just something brief, not too much. Just tell us, what do you think it means, Toby?
Okay. Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. Wireframing, when we talk about wireframing, it has to do with presenting your ideas, a rough sketch of your ideas for a product, just like a rough sketch of your MVP, the ideas you got from your brainstorming, presenting
Okay.
it in form of a sketch. That's, to me, that's what I understand by wireframing. Then prototyping has to do with testing your products. I mean, testing the interactions of your products, how testing the experience of the products. Like, for example, from the splash screen to come to the authentication screen, then to the home page like that. So that's prototyping. It has to do with testing testing the interaction, the experience of the product, the user experience of a product. So that is just it. Thank you.
Okay, that's fine. Latif, what do you think prototyping and wireframing is? Latif, are you still here? Okay. I am eating. What do you think wireframing on prototyping is?
Good evening, sir. So, to my own knowledge,
Please, don't call me sir. Thank you.
okay, sorry about that. Good evening. To my own knowledge, I feel wireframing is just an idea that you have for a product. It's a rough idea you have. It can be in a low fidelity. It can be low fidelity, and it can be mini. How will I put it? It can be medium also. In which you do sketch as a low fidelity, you can just draw it on the paper, and you can also do it on Figma, in which you just use monochrome. What is the color? I think gray and black with white for your design, not put any color. So it's just a rough idea, and representing text with shapes and rectangles and all. Why prototyping is the act of bringing those your ideas after you have designed your you can actually even prototype a wireframe on your on that you did in black and white, but basically people do prototype after a design is done, finished, a complete project is already done. So for the users see how they want to use this. Okay, when they click create account, where is it taking them to, this and that. So that's where prototyping comes in, how they will interact with the products per se. Thank you.
Okay, that's fine. Latif, how about you?
All right. Sorry, good evening. Sorry about earlier. Yeah, so wireframing is like a blueprint of your products, like probably of a design, giving like the blueprints, how the layout will be, probably the logos, and just how each of them are going to be positioned. While prototyping is like creating a model of like a final product, and this model is being improved as you get customer feedbacks. Yeah, I think that's what I understand by it, sir. Thank you.
Okay, okay. Yeah, so in a nutshell, a wireframe is just like you said, a prototype. I say a prototype, a blueprint. The blueprint of your digital product could be a mobile app, could be a web app. Am I projecting the wrong thing? Oh, okay. My bad. So yeah, it's just a blueprint. Just think of it this way. Your final digital product, either your website, your mobile app, your web app, your admin dashboard, or whatever, is actually a building. And if you actually do want to build a building according to proper standards, you're supposed to have like an architectural diagram of that building. I hope you guys are getting my points so far. So you're supposed to have like an architectural diagram of that building before you can actually tell the builders, the bricklayers, and the likes to get started on that building. So the wireframe in this case is like that architectural design of the building. And in this case, your building is your digital product. Do you guys understand what I'm saying? Hello?
Please come again. Come again. I didn't understand it.
Okay, so I'm going to use a case study of a building. We want to build a house, right? Are you getting me, Kenneth? Can you hear me loud
Yes.
and clear?
Yeah, very
Okay.
well.
So we want to build a house. In this scenario, the house we are trying to build is either a website, a mobile app, a desktop app, any digital product you can think of. And for the house to actually meet standard requirements, most definitely, we need to have a diagram of how the house should look. That is a sketch of how the house should look, a blueprint, which can be done by an architect. Are you getting me, Kenneth?
Very well.
Okay, so in this situation, that architectural drawing for that house is the wireframe. So the wireframe is like the architectural drawing or the base model drawing of a digital product. That's just what a wireframe is. This plenty English I wrote here, that's what it's just explaining. It's the basic blueprint, the basic blueprint of whatever we are trying to build, whatever digital solution we are trying to build. Do you get me?
Yeah, it's clearer now. Thanks.
Okay. Is there any other person that it does not understand what we're trying to say? If you don't, just maybe a thumbs down so I can know. But if you understand, a thumbs up is fine. Okay, only one person replies, so I would assume that we all understand. Okay, okay. Let's continue. So that's basically what a wireframe is. So wireframing is just the process of creating the wireframe. Does that make sense? A wireframe itself is a blueprint, a base level sketch or diagram for how our actual digital products will look, while wireframing is the process of creating a wireframe. Does that make sense? Do we understand? Okay. Yeah, let's go ahead. So now in that wireframe that we're trying to create, there are so many things that we can decide to add or not add. But the most important elements that should be there, the most important thing that we need to do for a wireframe, of course, I'm going to show you what a wireframe looks like. Don't worry, I'm going to do that. I'm most definitely going to do that. So for a wireframe to actually be called a wireframe, it has to have like the basic layout of whatever you're trying to build. That's to have the basic layout. That is, in the wireframe, you should be able to identify that, oh, okay, this is where the logo should be. This is where the buttons should be. It might not be the real button. It's most times it's not actually the real button itself, but it could just be like a rectangle showing that, okay, this is where this button is supposed to be. This is where the logo is supposed to be. Then some maybe tiny lines to represent the text that's supposed to be on that particular product, be it a mobile app, a web app, a desktop app. Do you guys get what I'm saying? So that's basically what a wireframe is. Just think of it as the basic layout of any digital product. That's just what a wireframe is. And then there are now different types of wireframes. This is where it gets interesting. This is actually the part where it gets interesting. There are several types of wireframes, but before we get there, why is it crucial? Why should we have a wireframe in the first place? Let me ask a question again. We just talked about what a wireframe is. So in your own words, what do you think a wireframe is? Can you guys just, before adding aesthetics? Yes, it is. You shouldn't even start adding aesthetics before having a wireframe at all. But let me drop this question to you guys. With what I just explained that a wireframe is, why do you think we need a wireframe? Just reply in the chat. Let's just do that real quick. Just reply in the chat. Why do you actually think a wireframe could be important? We just said that a wireframe is the blueprint. It's the layout of how our digital products would look like. It gives us an understanding of where what would be and how it should be placed, right? So what do you think makes it important? Why should we have it? Um, let's just reply in the chat. Let me see. Just a minute. Okay, you guys are all right. You are very, very correct. So the main essence of having a wireframe is to ensure that we actually factor in all of the basic things that would be needed for the application, the software to work efficiently. That's basically it. That's number one. And number two, while we are doing the wireframe, we can consider that, okay, this feature is needed, this feature is not needed. This button should be big, this button should be small, stuff like that, without having to actually create the real product. And in some cases, the wireframe can also be tested. Tested in the sense that you could create a wireframe on paper, like pencil and paper, draw it up, and within your team, you just pick and let someone know this goes to this place, this goes to this place, this goes to this place. Do you think that with these connections it should work fine? Will the application work great this way or not? You can do a mini testing in-house with just the sketches and drawing without having to waste any money. Because I mean, imagine you did not do a wireframe, you basically just jumped on the project, you started designing and stuff like that. And at the end of the day, you find out that the place you put a very important feature is not so good. That feature is very important, but because you did not map it out properly, that particular feature is now hidden and it has already been built. So that would mean that it will set the whole of the development phase back. Why? Because you did not do a wireframe. So those are some of the reasons why we actually do need a wireframe. First and foremost, it gives us the basis of what our design solution or application will look like. That's number one. Number two, we would be able to identify any usability issues. If the feature you're trying to build is going to be easy to use or not, you can determine that while doing the wireframing. Also, you can also get an idea of how the users would interact with that application while doing the wireframe, because when you're doing the wireframe, you're putting buttons in different places, you're putting text in different places. You are also trying to say, okay, when they click on this button, what should happen next? You are also adding actions to it without having to build the product. So with the wireframe, you are getting basically all of the basic necessities of your product or your application when you have not even started building, which is actually a very good idea. That way, if something does not work, you can easily change it. Like very, very easily change it. No wahala, no issue. And if the whole flow does not even work at all, you can literally scrap that old wireframe and start another one afresh. Why? Because wireframings are fairly easy to create compared to high fidelity and the prototype itself. Am I making sense, guys? Do you guys understand what I'm saying? If you have questions, you can drop it. You can drop them in the chat. If at any point in time you do not understand what I'm saying, do you guys get me? Okay, cool. So now let's continue. Types of wireframes. So we have three main types of wireframes, but there are some companies that basically only do two, while some do all three. And I'm going to explain what it means. But before I do explain this, let me show you guys what a wireframe looks like real quick. Oh, why did I put this at the last? Why did I put at the last? Okay, so this is what a wireframe looks like. These are the three main types of wireframes. The first one is a low fidelity wireframe. The second one is a mid fidelity wireframe, while the third one is a high fidelity wireframe, which is what most of us actually see. If you should go on Behance, go on Dribble and the likes, what you would see there is a high fidelity. Most people don't actually show their low fidelity or mid fidelities unless they build a full case study for that particular product. Now let's go back to types of wireframes. Okay, so there are three main types of wireframes. There is the low fidelity, there's the mid fidelity, and then there's the high fidelity. For the low fidelity, you literally can do that with your pencil and paper. I remember when I just started as a designer, one of the things I used to do, ensure that I have very close to me, is a drawing book and a pencil, so that if I'm working on a product and maybe idea just struck at the middle of the night, instead of me being reluctant to get on my laptop and start doing a sketch or something like that, I just pick up my drawing book and my pencil and I just draw a rough sketch real quick with my pencil and my paper, so I can capture the idea, the concept on paper, so that if by the time I wake up, I should be able to refine it later. So what I basically just did is called a low fidelity wireframe. It does not have the real content. It does not have the real colors. It doesn't even have the real buttons. It's as easy as you just writing things like okay, let me rearrange it so I can use the images to explain. So this is an example. This particular one my mouse is on is an example. It's represented in boxes and dashes. This is the logo. This is an image. These two lines are supposed to represent text. And then another button, another button. That's how simple a low fidelity wireframe can be. I mean, look at it. It's something that was basically done with a pen and paper. Do you guys get what I'm saying? So any sketch, any idea that we just do using maybe like a pen and paper, a rough sketch that does not look anything like the actual final product itself, or there is just like dashes, small boxes or circles all around, just to show where things would be on the product, is regarded as a low fidelity wireframe. Do you guys understand? While the mid fidelity wireframes is looking a little bit more like the actual product itself. It's a little bit more refined. In some cases, some people even put the actual text on the mid fidelity wireframe. Some people do that. Some people do that. Some people do not. And then instead of it looking all jumbled like this first one is, it's looking more refined. Look at the drawing, the first one and the second one. Can you guys see the difference? So the second one is a mid fidelity. It's looking very, very, very similar to the actual product, but still it does not have the brand colors, the brand typography, the actual images that should go out and stuff like that. While for high fidelity is like what I call it, the final stage of the wireframe. It looks exactly like the final product. To have the right font style, right font sizes, the brand's colors, the brand's logo, and everything would be complete on it. So for example, if I should Google Bolt's UI design, when we check the UI design for Bolt and we check the mobile app for Bolt, it would look exactly the same. Why? Because the high fidelity is what will be given to the developer to actually create the actual product. Do you guys understand what I'm saying? If you don't understand, please just raise up your hand or send a message in the chat, because I want to ensure that every single person is carried along. Do you guys get me? Okay, let's continue. So it's now established that the one that looks like the actual final product is called the high fidelity, while the one that looks close to it but does not have all of the proper branding and colors and typography is the mid fidelity. While okay, Timilane. Okay, I'll go over it again, Timilane. That's what I'm trying to do. So the one that looks closest or exactly like the final product after it has been built, or the final thing that will be sent to the developers to actually develop, is the high fidelity. The one that looks close to the high fidelity but does not have the brand colors, does not have the proper typography, does not have the proper text, but still looks close to the final one, which is the high fidelity, is called mid fidelity. While the rough idea that can easily just be done with pen and paper, or if you like, you can still use the normal tools, but most times that one is done with pen and paper. That is called the low fidelity. You guys understand? Mr. Jacob, do you want to say something? Okay, I would assume that was a mistake. Okay, someone asked a question: when creating wireframes, will one create for all possible features or screens expected for the product, or one only focus on some parts? Okay, that's actually a very good question. So it is very, very advisable that you actually create a wireframe for every single feature, every single screen, every single interaction. The reason is because if at the end of the day you miss out on some of the parts or some of the screens you are supposed to actually create, it will cause a problem when the high fidelity is to be tested with actual users. It will cause a problem because when they click on a particular button or a particular place on the application, then there will be nowhere for them to navigate to. So that will cause an issue. And even if your team is not the kind that adopts testing at every point in time, and then it is just given to the developers to build, the developers take it, they start building. When they get to that particular section where you did not build the screen, it's either you have to come back to you to build that particular screen for them, or the developer works on it, but in some cases does not look exactly like all of the other pages, does not have the same feel as the other pages, and at the end of the day, it's starting to cause usability issues. Do you get me as is? So it is very much advisable that every single, oh, you mean for the low fidelity? For the low fidelity, it's more or less like a thing of preference. If you feel like, say for example, I'm working on a website, I have home, about us, contact us, meet the team and stuff like that. All of those main pages, I would ensure that I have them created, the primary pages, while the secondary pages, like I said, it is a thing of preference. It's a thing of preference, but even though it's a thing of preference, so far you are still going to create those pages. It will give you some issues when you are creating those pages. Why? Because you do not have the layout of what those pages will look like at the final stage. So to save yourself some trouble, I would advise you, by all means, create the low fidelity for every single thing. But if you feel like you want to miss out some parts in the low fidelity, on your mid fidelity, make sure every every single page, every single screen, every single interaction is properly created. Do you understand? Okay, Victor said, is the page transition or animation determined before wireframing or after? So page transitions and animation, before you do that, you have to work on something called a user flow, which I'm also going to talk about. So a user flow is more or less like you saying when the user clicks on this, what should happen? Say, for example, when you click on the home button, what should happen? Should it take the person to home? Should it take the person to about us? Should it take the person to this, to that? That is the user flow. So for that user flow, for it to actually be all good, you need to ensure you have all of it. Or what do you mean? Do you mean just page transition as in animations? Is that what you mean, Victor? Before I go and explain something else. Victor, do you mean page transition? Can you unmute your mic and let me know exactly what you mean?
Yes, I mean the page
We are still going
transition.
to, oh, the page as in motion and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, when the user click a button or action, the transition to another page, is it determined before wireframe or after?
Okay. Now I get what you're saying. So the page transition from one page to another, in some cases, if you are working on your mid fidelity wireframe or your high fidelity wireframe, by all means, you should determine that. But if you are still in your low fidelity wireframe stage, I don't think it's actually so needed, because I mean, say for example, you are using pen and paper. How do you want to do animation with pen and paper without having to stress yourself so much? But when you have moved to the stage of mid fidelity, by all means, play around with it. Because at the end of the day, you might like the transitions you added while doing that mid fidelity, that you decide to keep it. Do you get me, Victor? Okay, so Damilola said, what's wireframing, and a quick recap of the last few minutes. Okay. I think I saw. Okay, the two Damilolas actually joined late. Okay, let me try to recap real quick. Let me try to recap real quick. So a wireframe is like a blueprint that shows the layout of your digital solution. Could be a mobile app, a desktop app, a web app, a website, anyone at all. The job of the wireframe is to determine, for you to be able to determine the layout, the skeletal structure, the bare bones of how the application would look and function. You could use sketches for it. That is the low fidelity. Then when you start using like a software to recreate the low fidelity, but making it look a little bit like what the final product should look like, that's mid fidelity. While the final one with all of the branding, the colors, the typography is the high fidelity. Do you guys understand Damilola and Damilola? Do you guys get? Okay, both of them are not replying.
I responded. Thank you so much, sir.
Oh,
Can you hear
okay,
me?
you're welcome. Don't call me sir. Thank you. Please don't call me sir. I thought we already agreed on that. Please don't call me sir. Okay, so as it said, can one just choose between low fidelity to high fidelity and mid fidelity to high fidelity instead of capturing them all, like low fidelity to mid fidelity to high fidelity? Okay, so just like I said, it's a thing of preference or the organization you work with. As a freelancer, you could decide that you just want to do mid fidelity and then high fidelity as a freelancer. But if in your organization you guys tend to do a lot of brainstorming, and you are not the only designer working on that particular project, then I would suggest that you do low fidelity first. Do you guys what I'm saying as is? Because I mean, different people will come with different ideas, and in that situation, you are not even using the computer yet. You're basically just sketching down ideas. If you're not the only designer on the team, it is advisable you start with a low fidelity. And if you feel like you've gotten every single interaction, every single screen, every single page down with your low fidelity, and you are very confident in yourself that, okay, we have spent so much time on the low fidelity, you can just move from low fidelity to high fidelity straight up. Like I said, it's a thing of preference. But if you feel like you still need to test the actual thing before going to high fidelity, then do mid fidelity using or a wireframing software. Test that with the users, get your feedback, then you can now proceed to high fidelity. Do you get me, Aziz? Is Aziz still here? Okay, great. Edward says, what's the difference between CTA and action, or the same can be used interchangeably? Well, they're actually both actions, because CTA means call to action. So well, like I said, sometimes it is dependent on how the person does their rough sketch. For me, in this situation, I would probably have just written button and button. I don't like stress. I would have just rewritten button and button. But what the person probably mean for CTA in this use case is that the CTA is the primary button, while the action is the secondary button. Do you understand, Edward? Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Please don't call me sir. I'm begging you people. Please don't call
Oh,
me sir.
sorry, sorry. Sure, what I
Thank
missed
you.
out.
Thank you. So do we understand the concepts of low fidelity, mid fidelity, and high fidelity now? Do we understand the concept? Okay, awesome. So now let's go to tools we can use for wireframing. Before I go to the tools we can use for wireframing, the OG tool for wireframing, like OG tool for wireframing, OP tool for wireframing still remains pen and paper for your low fidelity. Do we understand? Pen and paper. Just like I said, when I started, I used to have what did they call it? A drawing book and a pencil by my bedside, so that if I'm working on a product, I'm working on a project, and idea just struck or something came to my head, I can easily just draw out the sketch very fast. Because before I say I want to pick up my laptop and start opening Figma or Balsamic or whichever wireframing tool I want to use, the idea might have flown away. So the OG tool still remains pen and paper. Do we understand? For low fidelity wireframes. So for every other type of wireframing, the mid fidelity, the high fidelity, we have several tools we can use. But of course, the most used tool nowadays is Figma. Everybody uses Figma for everything. Is the sketch the same as low fidelity? Yes, it is. Damilola. The sketch still kind of falls under low fidelity because it is like a rough idea of how the application will look. Do you understand? So now tools for wireframing, everybody uses Figma, like I was saying. Everybody uses Figma for everything. Some even use Figma for print design, graphics design, even motion design to an extent. So people use Figma for it. I don't know. But here are some tools that we can use for wireframing. We can use Sketch. Sketch is only available on MacBooks, I think. We have Figma, Adobe XD, Mockflow, Just in Mind, and then UIZard. So some of these tools I've actually used before, and some I have never actually tried. For example, I don't think I've ever used Just in Mind, but I've tried Figma, Adobe XD, Sketch, and UIZard. UIZard would make you a little bit lazy because they have an AI that literally tries to create a wireframe for you. All you basically just need to do is make changes to it, edit it. But I would not advise you use UIZard anyways, because the wireframe it comes up with might be very ugly. Do you guys get? So here are some of those tools. The most used one is Figma. People don't really use Adobe XD anymore. I don't know why. Maybe because it's mostly paid. The free plan does not let you do so much. But with Figma, you can do a lot of things. Figma is their father. And then those are the tools. Now, the wireframing process. Step one, define your goals. Define your goals. I mean, you can't just pick up pen and paper and just say, I want to draw or I want to sketch out how a mobile app would look like, but you don't even know what the mobile app is supposed to do. So the first step is to define your goals. You need to be able to understand that, oh, okay, this is the kind of mobile app we're building. These are the users we are building for. You guys should remember when we were doing user research and when we talked about empathy mapping, user personas and the likes, this is where it now comes into play. You have been able to use those processes to understand the kind of users you are actually building for. You also would have been able to understand the business. The stakeholders have told you, oh, okay, this is what we're willing to do. This is what we're not willing to do at the moment. This is what our MVP will be like. You already have clear goals of what that solution should be like. Do you understand what I'm saying? You already have clear goals. So the next thing is sketch those ideas. You've been able to get, oh, okay, let's add a feature for people to get notifications. They should be able to see products easily. They should be able to see a marketplace, things like that. You already have those ideas. Now sketch it out. When you are doing your sketch, think like there's no box. Don't think outside the box. Think like there's no box. So there's this thing I learned. Draw out your best ideas, your craziest ideas, your foolish ideas, your not so foolish ideas. Whichever one it is, draw it out. Just draw it, keep sketching it out. And the reason is because at the end of the day, you do not know the one that will actually work. Some designers would limit themselves and say, oh, this way this app is coming to my head, it's going to look silly. It's going to look funny. The users might not take us seriously. But at the end of the day, that might be what that particular product or solution needs to actually break into the market. But because they felt like the idea is stupid or sounds foolish, they do not even sketch it out. So when you are doing your wireframing, sketch out any idea that comes to your head, regardless of how it feels to you, regardless of how it will feel to your friend. If it sounds stupid, sketch it. It sounds smart, sketch it. Sounds dumb, sketch it out. Then when you have now gotten so many different ideas, so many different layouts, then you can now start to select out of those ones. It could be that it's the header that you tried to think of in one particular sketch that would work out with another one's categories and stuff like that. Are you guys understanding what I'm trying to say here? So in a nutshell, whatever idea comes to your head, sketch it out. And then after you do that, you've gotten like a low fidelity of how the application should look, you have a layout, then you can now jump on your computer and do what? Create a digital wireframe, do the mid fidelity, do the high fidelity, add the colors when you do the high fidelity, put the actual text, the error messages, whatever, put everything together, then test it before you give it to the developers, unless you have an NDA attached to that particular project. Test it, please. So I test with 3 different type of people. First, I test my solutions if I don't have an NDA for it, or if it's a personal project. First, I test with someone that I know is not tech savvy. Secondly, I test with someone that is tech savvy. Then lastly, I will now test with someone that is also a designer. So that way I'm getting perspective from a designer, from someone that is not tech savvy at all. And the last person is tech savvy, but might not be a designer, could be a developer, could be a marketer or stuff like that. NDA, non-disclosure agreement. That's what an NDA means, non-disclosure agreement. It means that whatever you work on that particular project, you cannot share with a third party. That's what it means. Yeah. So here are the processes. Define your goals, sketch those initial ideas. Don't be scared that the ideas might sound silly. Make sure you sketch it down. Then the next thing is create a digital wireframe. Use Figma, use Sketch, use Adobe XD. In fact, if you want, use Photoshop or CorelDRAW. Nobody will beat you. Actually, nobody will beat you. And then get the feedback. After you get the feedback, check it. Are they positive feedbacks? Are they negative feedbacks? If they are negative feedbacks, then look to your design again. Rebuild some parts that you feel like should be changed, and then you're good to go. Do you guys understand? Does that make sense? Guys, does that make sense? Okay, awesome. So after you are done with all of this, then you're well on your way to having a very nice wireframe, sincerely speaking. Now, the next part, I think I already showed you this image. We can differentiate. So real quick, guys, let me just be sure that you guys are following. Image A, B, or C, which one is the mid fidelity? You guys should reply quickly in the chat. I want to see who is following. Christina, the first one is mid fidelity. No, now, Christina, what's going on? You've not been listening. Okay, I'm just going to remind you guys. The first one is low fidelity. Second one, mid fidelity. Last one, high fidelity. Do we understand? So now, let's work on creating an actual wireframe while we're still on the call. So in our next class, which is on Thursday, we'll go over to prototyping. Does that sound fine, guys? Okay, so let me open up Figma real quick. What's wrong with my pen? Sorry, give me a second, please. I don't know what's wrong with my. Okay. Yeah, we're back. Just give me a couple of seconds. So while I'm trying to open up the file that we'll use for creating the wireframe, you guys should give us ideas of what products are we going to work on. So the kind of products, or let's just pick a category of products. Should it be fintech or let's just make it easy so we don't take too much of our time. Let's just work on the wireframe for
Ethic.
registration. What did you say?
I said ethic.
FX. Wahala.
Yes, like education.
People like stressful things. People like stressful things. People like stressful things. FX. You want us to sleep on the call? Framing. Please, let's not sleep on the call. So, I'm going to share my screen again. Okay. Can you all see my screen? So I basically just opened a blank page on Figma, and I want to use this particular page for my wireframing. All true. So I'm going to be doing low fidelity, high fidelity, low fidelity, mid fidelity, and high fidelity. So this should be for low, mid, and the last one is high. Can you guys still see my screen? The simple thing, data is not expensive. Yes, so MTN and Airtel are shanking everybody. So now, just like I said, the OG for wireframing is basically pen and paper, but I can't show you guys pen and paper right now. I'm not on my phone. I would have just, and I don't stand on my camera, which will even make it hard. So I'm just going to use pen and paper from Figma. Hopefully everything pans out fine. FFF. So we are going to be doing, kindly change the mode of display. I don't understand that, Samson. What do you mean?
I mean, like the theme to white instead of dark mode. I don't know,
Oh,
but I feel this is dark mode. Yeah.
yeah, I'm just going to make, what do you call it? I'm just going to make the sections white. Is this better?
Yes, yes, better.
Okay, cool. I don't know. I don't like too many light colors. Yeah, it strains my eyes. No, my eyes are not fake. So, we said we're going to work on registration, yeah? So what are the things that should be on the registration page? You guys should answer now. What should be on the registration page? I'm basically just going to be designing what you guys are saying. Oh yeah, what are the things that should be on the registration page? Personal info. What else?
Email.
Huh?
Email.
Email. Okay.
Yeah.
What else?
Name and surname.
Name and surname.
Login
Okay.
page.
School logo. School logo.
Phone number.
Logo.
Phone number.
Thank you.
The
So
school
this is
logo.
what we are doing, like a mobile app. So I don't know, my logo. So I'm just going to do this. That's supposed to be logo, or better still, let me just write logo inside. Okay, I did this one. This thing is too thick. Let me reduce it to 1. Logo. Like I said, the low fidelity doesn't actually need to look beautiful.
Yeah, the school info and probably a picture, display picture, something image.
A display picture. Okay. So the forms that you guys talked about, I'm just basically just going to start with this. So this is form. So I'm going to assume this is name, email, right? Password. What else should be there?
The number.
Confirm password. Confirm password.
Confirm password. Okay. So you
Or
see
forgot
this
password.
forgot password on registration page, sir. You're just registering. You can't
Login.
you can't
Action button.
so one other thing that
No,
is
no,
very
like
Phone
course,
number sign off.
course,
login.
Good
course
evening.
that you're applying for.
Please, shouldn't
The
there
Yes.
course
be
you're
a
applying for.
title on the page that says registration form?
Oh, okay. Yes, thank you. I'm basically just writing what you guys are saying. So let me put the title there.
The
Registration.
choice of course, like course type that you're applying for something.
Okay, let's try not to make it too long because for proper UX, for proper user experience, your form should not be too long. If it's going to be really long, then you should make it a multi-step form instead. Reason being that when there's so much things on one single page, it might cause cognitive overload, and the user is like, why is this thing so plenty? Can't it be shorter? Do they expect me to waste this much time? Stuff like that. And at the end of the day, they might end up not going through with the process. Do you get me? So let's try as much as possible to ensure that it is not too much. So we have name, email, password. Let's add address.
Contact and address.
Address. Let's say phone number.
The course.
Yeah.
The course.
And then the most important thing, again, one more important thing to do is ensure that there is a submit or register button. Now, the reason why I did not want to use submit is because when we are trying to create a form, while you're naming your buttons or your actions, make sure the button and the action itself actually have a relationship. So if you want them to register, just put it there, register or sign up. If you want them to log in, just put it there, log in or sign in. Don't just put submit, because if you just put submit, it can be a whole lot of different actions. Submit can be submit form to so person. It could be login, it could be register. So try as much as possible to name your buttons properly. Do we understand?
Yes.
Does that make sense? So now we've been able to come up with a sketch real quick, right? It would have looked much better if I used pencil and paper. People should not. Now that's the low fidelity. Now let's do the mid fidelity real quick. And all of this name, email, password, whatever that I added, I could have decided to just put dashes instead of actually writing name, email, password. But I've just put dash, 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 dash to show that, okay, there's supposed to be a text that is a label for those forms, or I can just use boxes all through and then say, I know what I'm doing. It's going to have labels. Do you guys understand what I'm saying? Okay, now let's try to recreate this real quick, but in a much more refined version. Since the first one was a low fidelity, let's do the mid fidelity real quick. So what do we need to have first? We need to have the frame. I'm just going to pick iPhone 16 frame. Hey, just so this thing is big. Let me make it smaller. Or I need to make this ones bigger, actually. Because one thing I always try to do is, even if it is mid fidelity, ensure that your sizes and proportions are correct. Do you understand what I'm saying? Do you guys get me?
No,
Hello?
I don't understand.
Huh? You don't understand? Okay.
Yes.
So what I try to do while I'm doing my mid fidelity is that whatever sizes I use on my mid fidelity is what I'm going to use on my high fidelity. And if the sizes are not correct on high fidelity, if your button is so if your text is supposed to be like 14 pixels and you use 24 or 25 pixels, some developers can be very funny. Even though they know it's supposed to be 16 pixels, they are going to use exactly the sizing you used on your design, and then the design is going to look ugly after implementation. So ensure that you use the proper standard sizes for every single thing, starting from your mid fidelity. That way, you won't have to strain yourself or stress yourself when you are doing the high fidelity. What you basically be doing is adding the right content and adding colors to make it look beautiful. Do you get what I'm saying? Precious.
Yes.
Are you sure? Or should I explain again?
Yes, I understand.
Okay, great, great. So let's make this guy bigger, my ugly sketch. So now this is looking awkward. Okay, yes, fine. So now logo, right? For logo, I'm just going to use an ellipse or circle. And then what does the page say? The page title is registration. Registration. I'm going to make that a little bit bigger. Oh goodness, what am I writing? Where did I see T? Jesus Lord. Registration. That's the page title. And then the next thing we need to do is we need to add these forms, right? So you could decide to create your forms manually, or if you are using a UI kit, just pick a form from there. I know for a fact that Figma now has beautiful, beautiful forms from the UI kit. So I'm just going to steal one from there to make things easy. Oh, sorry, it's called input. Okay, text field, insert instance.
Sir, please zoom in so that I hear. Thank you.
Okay, so now what is the first thing we need to have there? Name, right? So what do I do? Input text. The label should say name. Oh, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? Let's remove the trailing icon. Let's remove the supporting text. Yes, enabled, fine. Need to make this a tad bigger. Okay. So we have name. Input. Name. And remember, these are not the final colors. So another thing about mid fidelity is basically it has just how would I put it? It has just one color for mid fidelity. It's mostly just one color all through. Are we going to share all fidelity, low, mid as well? No, the developers just get the high fidelity. Low fidelity, mid fidelity is not for the developers, because the developers' job is just to implement the final design. Do you get that, Aziz? Okay, I'll zoom in more. I'll zoom in a little bit more. Okay, he said while doing this, can we use the layout grid? Okay, let me add the layout grid real quick. So I'm just going to click on this, switch it to columns. So when I'm doing mobile apps, I use a 4-column grid. And then margins, I tend to use 20 or 16. But let me just use 20. Oh, wow. So even my eyes can almost pick margins of 20. That's nice. Okay, the answer I gave to him is that high fidelity is what you send to the developers. You don't need to send low fidelity or mid fidelity. Okay, can we label and add notes to our wireframes to get a more detailed concept? By all means, you can. You can add notes to it. You can. You most definitely can add notes to it. Sometimes I even add notes to my high fidelity. And the reason why I add notes to my high fidelity is because I don't want the developers coming to me at every single point in time to say, where does this go? What is happening here? And stuff like that. So even if I'm not doing a prototype for the developers, they already would understand by the notes I have to it. Do you understand, Tosin? Is Tosin still here? Okay. So I'm just going to duplicate this guy. How many do we have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Email. Of course, this is just a rough work. It can be better. Not it can be there, but it's better. It's most definitely supposed to be better. Email, password, enter password. And then what's the next one? Address. Address. Enter address. And then last but not the least is phone. Enter phone number. Okay, so now we have all of the fields for the form. The only thing remaining is a button. So I'm just going to create a button real quick. Register. And like I said, if you guys still remember what I said, it's supposed to just be one single color all through. Black and white, actually, not. That's what I mean by one single color, black and white. And so with that, we have our mid fidelity wireframe. Super fast, very easy, right? I think I should make this bold. Do you guys understand? If you don't understand, please let me know. Okay,
We
yes, I'm
do understand, but please can you zoom in? I can't see it very well.
Oh, sorry, my bad. How about now? Is it better?
It's better now. Thank you.
Okay, Samson. Oh, you said I'm too fast. Oh, goodness. Sorry, my
Sorry,
bad.
the boxes you duplicated, where did you get those boxes from, please?
Oh, okay. Let me redo it real quick. So I'm so sorry. I was actually using shortcuts. My bad. So this is what I did. Instead of me actually having to create the form fields, I just stole one from material design. But let's just create a new form field real quick. Let's create one real quick. So rectangle. Let me add the layouts back. And then let me add the text name. Let's make this 14. So that's going to serve as our label, while this is going to serve as our placeholder. Please enter your name. Okay, so let me reduce this one's opacity so it looks like it is not activated yet. Okay. And then I group it so it doesn't move around. Then group it with this again. Do you guys understand? Oh, okay, Precious, you have a question. What's your question?
So I don't understand the use of this. Is it layout grid? Yes, layout grid.
Okay, you mean
Why
what
are
it's
we
used
using?
for? Okay, so
Yes.
a layout grid actually helps you align your designs so that you don't go outside the confinements of where you want your designs to be. For example, if I'm not using a layout grid, let me turn it off. I could make mistakes of doing things like this without even knowing. It might not be intentional. So a layout grid helps you align your elements. It will give you like a visual way to align it easily. Do you get me, Precious?
Yes. Yes.
That way,
If you want to take it, okay, I
what is
understand you
it?
now. So if you want to take it out, what do you do when you are done designing?
Okay, so the layout grid is not actually part of the design. If I should export this whole page as maybe a PNG, a PDF, or whichever format, the layout grid does not actually show. Do you understand?
Yes, I understand now.
Okay, the layout grid is just like a visual way of you aligning things so that it doesn't go outside of where you want it to be.
Oh, okay.
Do you understand?
Thank you. Yes.
You're welcome. So let's go back to it. We've been able to create this one now
So,
from
sir, sorry,
scratch.
sir. So, sir, you
Yes,
said that you stole maybe marketplace also. I don't know where you say you stole this stuff from. Is it
it's
like
from
there is a place that we can get it from Figma here too?
yeah,
If
Figma now
it's going
lets
to,
you use UI kits from Google and Apple. It's now pre-installed in Figma. Every single new Figma file you just create as Google's Material 3 design kits, Apple's Human Interface Guideline kit, and Figma's simple design system. But I would not advise you start using UI kits at the moment. Reason being that you might get lazy and restrict your creativity because
so it's
UI
better for us to create manually.
yes, for now, just create most of your elements manually. But if you are
All
working with a team that uses a UI kit, by all means, learn how to use that UI kit to the best of your knowledge. Do you understand? So let's continue. So I'm just going to use the normal. Initially, I was using Alt as my shortcut, but now I'm just going to use normal Control CV, copy and paste. Do you guys understand what I just did? So that I don't have to recreate all of this. She said waiting the UI kit. I'm going to explain that. I'm going to explain that. Let me just finish up with this. So I'm going to do Control CV again, and then I bring or Command D actually works also. Duplicate or Control D or for Windows. And then I literally just duplicated it. So let's rename them. Address. Please enter your address. Phone. Please enter your phone number. So do you guys understand? So
Okay, sorry, please, I have a question.
okay, what's your question?
Okay, these ones that are inside the frame, how do you do it that they are so faint? The words are so faint.
I just reduced the opacity of the text.
Okay.
That's all I did.
So how do you do that now?
Which one? Okay. Do you mean to reduce the opacity?
Yes.
Okay, so when you click
Yes.
on any element, you will see this place where it says fill. Can you see this?
Yes.
Yes.
So it's currently on 100%. You can just reduce it to say maybe 50%.
Okay.
So can you see it?
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. So that's basically how to do it. So now let's rearrange this. Name, then email comes before address. Then we have phone, address, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. What am I missing out? Okay, password. Let me do Command D one more time for password. Password. Please enter your password. So now everything is looking all smooth. So I just want to ensure that the spacing is actually equal across board. So I go to alignment and I just click tidy up. Very fast like that. And with that, we've created our mid-fidelity wireframe very easily. Do you guys understand? Do we understand? Barakat, you said you can't hear anything. I would suggest you leave the call and join back in because I think others can hear me. Okay, now let's do the high fidelity real quick. So when I'm doing the high fidelity, instead of me actually creating everything from scratch again, since I know the high fidelity and the mid fidelity are very similar, can I redo the alignment? Okay. So select everything. Go to this alignment tab. Make sure everything is center aligned. Then click on these 3 dots, tidy up. So what that tidy up does is tries to actually clean up the arrangements. But the tidy up can give you some issues if you have elements that the alignments are not the same. Say for example, this is like this and this is like this. So if I should select everything and I use tidy up, it's going to look weird. Let me see if I can do that real quick. Okay, let me split the same. Okay, let me bring them out. Let me bring them out. So I don't scatter this one. Let me bring them out. So if I should tidy this up, see, it's not even bringing out tidy up. Do you know why? Because you have different types of alignments there. So first things first, you need to make sure they're all either center aligned, left aligned, or right aligned. Then you can tidy it up. But currently, I think it's tidied up. Let's try again. Tidy up. See, it's all looking wonky. So make sure they are all center aligned. Let's tidy up again. It should work now. What's going on? Okay, these ones are overlapping. Tidy up. So some of these features you would get to understand them better as you play around with Figma. Do you understand, Victor? Okay, we have spent a lot of time. So let's do the high fidelity real quick. What I try to do when I want to draw high fidelity is that since I know my mid fidelity is very, very close to my high fidelity, it's just colors and the proper typography. What I basically just do is I duplicate my frame from the mid fidelity, Command D. Let's bring it here. So what we want to do is we want to put a logo. I'm just going to look for a random logo online. Random logo. So I'm just going to copy and paste it. Copy and paste. Can you guys still see my screen? So I'm just going to replace that logo with this circle here. Remove this guy, put this in, make sure it's all looking nice. And then let's pick the brand color from here. I'm just going to use the eyedropper tool. Sorry, color picker tool. Or I can just do this. Click on the color, then pick this. I'm just going to take, and then I'll do the same thing for this guy. Pick it from here, and let's clean this up a little bit more so it looks nice and what have you. Let's change this to white, but give it a stroke. Same thing goes here. Let's change it to white. Give it a stroke. Oh, not everything, just the rectangle. Give it a stroke. Change the fill to white. Same thing goes here. Fill to white. Give it a stroke. Fill to white. Give it a stroke. Stroke basically just means borders. So stroke. Okay, and we're done. So can you see the three? Let me put the three side by side so I can zoom in properly. Let me just.
Sorry, I want to ask a question. The logo for the design was gotten from Explore Community, right?
No, I basically just went to Google and I wrote random logo and I just put it there. So low fidelity, mid fidelity, high fidelity. Can you guys see the differences?
Yes.
So if you look at it very well, the mid fidelity is very, very similar to the high fidelity. How I extracted the color from the logo. Okay, let me do it again. So this is what I did. The place I want to add the logo to, let me say this name text, I selected it. I go to fill. Can you see this little button? I click on it and then I look for where the color is and then just one click. That's all. Do you get Shion? Shion, did you get that? Is Shion still here? Okay, great. So that's basically it from mid fidelity, from low fidelity to mid fidelity to high fidelity. Yes, Austin.
Sorry, please, could you explain the way you made that frame? Like, I think the stroke, you made it kind of like faint. The black isn't really black. It's kind of like faint. The color.
The stroke?
Like the frame itself, the column itself. That's the
Oh, you mean
rectangle.
this? Oh, that's the
No.
color code. I just used a color code of F1, F1, F1.
Oh, because it looks like black, but it doesn't look very black. It looks something
It's
similar.
not actually black. It's closer to white. See it?
Oh.
There are so many color codes closer to white. There's also FA.
Oh, okay. So I thought it was strokes that you used for the.
No. I just changed the color of the frame because the background, like the section itself, is white, like FFF.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. You said the background, you didn't give it a color. Okay. There's actually a color there, F1, F1, F1. There's a color there. Oh, Damila said I should redo the color thing. So Let me do it one more time. I'm just going to pick this one. I go to fill, I select, click on the color, and then I pick this small dropper looking thing. I do a left click on it, and then I go to wherever the color is, and then I just do a left click. That's all. Do you understand, Damilola? Damilola, did you get that? Okay, so with this, we've been able to talk about the wireframing, the mid fidelity, low fidelity, and high fidelity. Now, in our next class, we're going to be talking about prototyping. Hopefully, we'll just create maybe one or two more screens to add to this, and then we'll prototype it. So it's question time. Let's ask our questions. Question time. If you have a question, just raise up your hand. Let me pick a few questions, and then we can call it a night. Okay. Christiana, what's the question? Christiana, what's your question?
Oh, sorry, I thought I was speaking. My mic was off. So this first low fidelity, please, how did you sketch it out? How did you get that? How did you go about it?
So I used the pencil. See? I use the pencil. So it's actually a bit easier for me to use the pencil because I am currently using a graphics tablet. So if I was using a mouse, it would have been harder.
Okay. I understand. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Samson, your question.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. Actually wanted to ask, like, when you picked the logo from the random logo from internet, it has a white background in like a square shape. Let's say, for instance, the logo is circle. So, and you have like this, how can we make it like circle instead of having like four corner? Don't even understand what I'm saying.
Okay, so you can basically just ensure that you remove the background of the logo. Do you get me? If you remove the background of the logo, it should not be showing this whitish part. But if for reasons unknown to me, you cannot remove the background, here is a little cheat code for you. You can just round the corners.
Okay.
So if you round the corners, it should work fine, right?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. But the best option is to actually get the right logo without a background for it. Yes, you can also use a clip mask, but to avoid all of that stress, because you're supposed to be a UI designer, not a graphics designer on the project, just ask for the proper logo, the PNG file without a background. Do you get?
All right.
So,
Yes.
Aziz, your question.
And thank you. Good evening, sir.
Don't call me sir,
I'd like
please.
to ask, sorry, among the three fidelity that we have on the screen, only the low fidelity one look kind of weird. Is it that when creating a low fidelity, we don't have to consider the frame or you make use of frame, just as you did with the mid fidelity and the high fidelity?
Okay. So, for the low fidelity, just like I said, it's a rough sketch. You are still trying to gather the ideas together. And if you say you want to start considering frames, trying to consider the actual sizes and everything, the idea itself might have left your head when you're doing that. And just like I said, the best way to do low fidelity is using a pen and paper. So what you're just doing is just trying to sketch it real quick before the idea goes, or maybe someone told you something that inspired the idea and you just want to ensure that you have it penned down. That is what the low fidelity is for. So you don't really have to bother about dimensions and sizes and stuff like that for low fidelity. But when you start getting to mid fidelity, then you need to bother about it, because your mid fidelity will translate to the high fidelity, which the developer will end up using. Does that make sense?
Yes, but for instance, let's say you make use of your pen and paper. Is it that if we decide to use pen and paper, we don't have to transfer it in a digital format just as we have it now? Or if we are going to transfer it in a digital format this time around, we have to do it the proper way or something?
So just like I said, the only one going to the developers is the high fidelity. And nobody will actually sue you or say, why did you not use the proper frame sizes for what do they call it, the low fidelity? But nowadays there are actually templates that you can print out for low fidelity. There are templates that you can print out. Those templates already have sizes for your mobile apps, your website screens, and stuff like that. But if you cannot do that, that's why I suggested using a drawing book. If you have so many time on your hands, by all means, you can draw the size of what did they call it, of a mobile phone on your drawing book. But if you are using Figma, of course you can use a frame to do your low fidelity. But I just prefer sketching for my low fidelity. You can decide to make your low fidelity fine. It's actually for your own consumption or for other designers and your team's consumption, not for the stakeholders, not for the developers. Do you understand, Aziz?
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay. How did you group the name and box together? Okay, so this is how I did that. That's quite easy. Just the same way you group on any design software. Just click on the two items or elements and Control G, or right click and group selection. Do you understand, Victoria? Okay. How did you clip the logo to the circle? It's okay. So I did not actually clip it. Like I said, I just used the cheat. This is the original. I just added the corner radius to it. That's all. I used a corner radius of 100. That's basically it. Do you understand, Johnson? Okay, so if there are no more questions, I think that would be the end of today's class. Okay, Victoria, you still have a question?
Hello,
Victoria?
sir.
Yes,
Sir.
please don't call me sir. Thank you.
Oh, sorry. I want to ask that, are we going to do this low and mid and high for all from the home page to the final app?
Okay,
Do we have
so
to
just
do?
like I said, for me, most times what I do is I do my low fidelity for the most important features. But when I get to mid fidelity, I do every single screen. Even if it's an error message, I will ensure I do it. Why? Because my mid fidelity translates to my high fidelity. And for high fidelity, the developer is expecting to see every single page, every single screen, every single interaction. Do you understand, Victoria? Is Victoria still here? Okay. Let me answer Jude, and then we can call it a night. What of someone who generates a design system using a plugin? Can they still use the UI kits? Will it be an issue combining two design systems? Okay. Well, for entry-level designers or junior designers, I would not suggest you use two different design systems. Reason being that it would be a little bit difficult for you to actually manage how it looks, because a design system, let's say Google's design system and Apple's design system, they look totally different. So if you are combining both of them to form one singular project or one singular design file, then you would have to start tweaking each of them to look the same, which is not very advisable. So my best advice would be for you to stick to one design system or stick to one UI kit all through as an entry level. But when you have gotten to that stage where you know how to tweak it and everything will look beautiful, by all means, if you want to steal from 50 million design systems, you are free to do that. Victor says, does the material design component has a standard button size and text size? Yes, they do. They most definitely do. Just Google material design system. You will see all of the standard button sizes, all of the standard text sizes. But have this at the back of your mind. The material design system was initially built for Android operating system. So if you are designing for a mobile app, by all means, it's the best for you to use if it's a mobile app for Android. While if it's a mobile app for Apple, human interface guidelines is your go-to. Standard button sizes, standard text sizes, they're all there. But if it's for web, then you have to look for some other ones, maybe Bootstrap's own, Tailwind CSS, and the likes. Don't worry, when you start designing more, you will get more experience on it. So yeah, I think we can call it a night. I hope you guys enjoyed the class. So